Team Unity came in spite of incredible odds. And for me, the biggest moment to celebrate is that 3 years on, working hard as a government on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have remained united in purpose, and we continue to deliver to the wonderful people of St. Kitts and Nevis, who put their trust in us as a new movement of change, a new movement pledged to do better, a new movement pledged to restore the good name of St. Kitts and Nevis, a new movement pledged to bring an agenda of prosperity for all. So as we celebrate our 3rd anniversary, for me the fact that we continue to work diligently and assiduously on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the scorecard is one that shows that we have accomplished many things on behalf of the people. That is what now inspires me to continue to further work. Well, I believe for the people it is a moment of reflection, that they, as it were, took a chance on a new movement, and for the vast majority of honest persons, they will in fact admit that this government has been performing well. And while it has not been a perfect run, it certainly has been an excellent one. We therefore would want to ensure that we remain close to the people in their minds and in their hearts, and that the commitments that we made that led to a resounding victory for Team Unity, those commitments continue to bind us in trust and love with the electorate, and indeed all of our citizens, not only those at home, but those abroad.
The removal of VAT from food and funeral expenses has made life much easier for them. Just last week, a gentleman stopped me right outside of my office. He said he doesn't know if it is the norm to say thanks to ministers when you see good things taking place. He referred specifically to the repaving of the tennis courts at Warner Park, and commented that now if you go there at 5 a.m. in the morning, you have difficulty being able to get a game, because now that the courts have been repaired, you have upward of some 80-something persons there on a daily basis trying to play tennis.
Well, I think we very early began to deliver to the people in significant ways. And for me, what is important is that the big commitments have basically been provided. It was a moment in our history when our people wanted relief from what for them was an onerous 17% VAT, which was attached to their bills for food, for medicines, and in a large extent by imposing the VAT on medicine, the government of the day was coming between life and death, because it meant for many they were not able to get their prescription filled because they could barely afford its cost, and then that cost was taxed on 17%. And so when we were able, within a few months of taking office, to signal our commitment to do what we promised we would, that to me signaled that bond between government and people, that we will keep and cherish that bond. So the delivery or the waiver of VAT from food, from medicine, from educational supplies for me was a big one. The delivery of the gratuity payments to all those farmer sugar workers who felt deprived was for me very significant. The fact that the former administration, when it closed this industry unceremoniously, paid 968 farmer sugar workers in the short period that we had been there, we were able to mobilize resources, $16 million. Not 1 cent of it came from the National Treasury. And to date we have paid over 2,000 former sugar workers. The maths is quite clear. 968 former sugar workers benefited under the Douglas administration. To date, over 2,000 such former sugar workers have been brought relief. Mary Charles Hospital, which was allowed to go to the dogs in a manner of speaking by the former administration, could be made brand new and with additional services being provided. That for me was a great delight, and a great delight, I believe, not only for the people of Constituency 7, who are the principal beneficiaries of that facility, but the extended community up, I think, up to Canada that is serviced by that facility, and also those in number 6 who are part of the district for which that particular hospital serves. We could go on and on. The fact that we were able to bring and to open the oncology wing at the hospital was for me critical, because we are in a period of time where cancer is very pervasive, and the fact that right here in St. Kitts and Nevis that service can be provided affordably to people brought much delight and pleasure for me personally. I recall one returning national from Connery when I met her and we chatted, and she said to me, "I want to thank God for you. Because of this facility here, I do not have to find money to go to London." So these are really deliverables that have impacted significantly on the quality of life for people in St. Kitts and Nevis. I was moved by the fact that we were able very early to bring to completion the mental day treatment facility. Again, because several times person would ask, why do you have all these people who are mentally challenged, as it were, going astray in Barnsley and elsewhere? For the first time now, we have a home for them, albeit in the time where they can get the service.
Perhaps as Minister of Education, can speak to the fact that when I took that particular ministry back in 2015, I received a number of complaints from teachers in particular, students and parents of the Barnsley High School who were experiencing problems with the shift system. Within a very short period of time, that shift system came to an end, and while the situation may not be the ideal one, at least we have been able to resolve quite a number of issues that we were hearing from persons back then. As I look at the Ministry of Youth, I made a commitment when I became Minister of Youth that the youth policy, which was being worked on for over 16 to 19 years, would become a reality. That youth policy was tabled in Parliament last year, and I think that is a big achievement. You had a play field in Sandy Point that was built, I think, in the 1980s or early 1990s, and up until 2015 there wasn't a single light on that play field. By 2016 we were able to put modern lighting on the new play field in Sandy Point.
Team Unity government has been good for St. Kitts and Nevis. The rate at which the government has dealt with the debt situation, managing the debt, is also something to celebrate. But it comes to one of the important things is that the Team Unity government coming into force threw into very sharp relief the kind of near creeping dictatorship which was gotten rid of in January or in February when the Team Unity government won. In respect of St. Nevis, there's been a much better relationship between the government in Nevis and the federal government. And that is a very big accomplishment for the Team Unity. And to celebrate that in this third year would be something which we could all feel proud about.
The country has one of the most focused cabinet, one of the most united cabinet that it ever had. And for me, the fact that very early, coming from different political parties with different aspirations, the fact that we were able to gel so nicely as a coherent and cohesive team is for me one of the major victories of this unity movement. I call it a movement because it was really something that was driven by people in all the political parties, at the level of the ordinary rank and file member to the high echelons of the leadership, had come to believe that the country needed a different modus operandi, a different way of doing its politics, but most importantly, an improved way of governing. And so we came together, and in coming together we signaled to the country that we were going to, as it were, subordinate party for greater good. The greater good was to live the motto, country above self, to engage in the politics of citizenship rather than the parochial party membership which had hitherto characterized the dispensation. That meant that when we were looking for people to do jobs, we found the best person. And that person need not be a party hack, because the country was elevated by the quality of contributions which its citizen would make.
The members of cabinet, they're all very close friends. They interact, they joke among themselves, but when it comes time for business, it is business. We deal with the matter of the people's business very seriously. But there's that cordiality, there's that rapport, there's that interpersonal understanding and respect, which makes for good governance and for good relations among people.
If you were to come to any meeting of the cabinet, you would think that it is one single political party in the cabinet. Yes, of course, in any debate, you're going to have persons who express a different opinion. But I think at the end of the day, we are respectful of the views of each other. We let the different views contend, and we come to a majority decision, and that majority decision is respected and accepted by all persons, because we see it as being in the best interest of the citizens of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
For this, I want to thank all members of the cabinet, but in particular to thank the leaders from the other party who have collaborated, who have provided stability. The country has heard me say time and time again that Senior Minister Vance Amory had been instrumental, because except for myself, him and Minister Liebert, who served as a permanent secretary, the cabinet basically was made up of persons who were coming to this level of government with limited experience. And so we have been able to rely upon the experience of Senior Minister Vance Amory, my own experience of being both in the politics and in government for an incredible lengthy period from 95 to 2013, and now again, thanks to the people, to rely upon the experience in government of the Honorable Patrice Liebert, who served for several years as a permanent secretary, and to rely upon our cabinet secretary, who has been a distinguished civil servant, serving in high capacities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, returned to her country, set up her own private entity engage in private sector work, but serve the country as head of its public service. That experience has basically been of good value to the manner in which we govern and the strides that we have made. All of us as a team, when we are in cabinet, we basically have robust debates about issues on which we are passionate, and that is allowed, and that is how it should be. Cabinet must be a place where the people's agenda is taken seriously, and people must not just scan over things. People must debate them, people must be constructive. And every debate we have had in the cabinet has been a constructive one. We have been able to leave each cabinet meeting in solidarity. Indeed, our cabinet meetings are extremely long.
There are two particular projects that I personally would like to see rolled out within the next 2 years. The first, of course, would be the new Bastia High School, and the second project is a multi-purpose sports center. We have already had some conceptual designs for it. Those were presented to the ministry in last year of December. We have some concerns relative to the seating capacity, and so we have asked the architect to go back to his drawing board and to see how the seating capacity can be increased. Once we are satisfied with that, then it is to get the actual plans and to see how this particular project can be rolled out. I definitely would hope that it's a project that we can implement very shortly. It's the multipurpose sports center would be a home for volleyball, basketball, netball. Of course, it's an indoor facility. It would be able to accommodate shows for carnival. There's also an area designated on the inside for performing arts. You have office areas, storage areas, a medical center for persons, of course, playing sports, etc. So it's a multi-purpose, and it's a facility, I think, which is being asked for, especially by the persons involved in sports and those who patronize the carnival shows and persons who are into the performing arts.
I think the TVET program, to get a well-designed and well-implemented TVET program to get our people into training in practical areas, to get our people into a desire to become entrepreneurs. That would help, because then, it creates a new cadre of employers, a new avenue for work. But the projects which I think will also help would be those which create jobs. About the project near to the Ross University, where the groundbreaking has taken place and so on. These are the things which will make for the dynamic development of the country and the creation of jobs.
The National Health Insurance Program, which was launched in terms of the consultative process, would in fact be in a position where we can build that out, so that the difficulties that people are experiencing in getting especially specialized health services, that these matters would no longer become a challenge to our people. Those of our senior citizens, 70 years and over, who would not normally qualify on account of age and perhaps advanced health conditions from regular insurance support, would be covered, and that for me would be an extremely big item we would have delivered to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I take special delight as one of the accomplishments, certainly taken for granted, the improvement in the relations between the federal entity and the Nevis Island administration. And I took incredible pleasure and satisfaction to hear the now Premier Mark Grantley, Minister of Foreign Affairs, indicated that the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis was at its best ever. I am happy as the son of a Nevisian father and a Kittitian mother to be able to say I had a hand in facilitating that road to greater and more amicable relationship between the federal entity and the Nevis Island administration. So when we look across the range of deliverables, we have significantly impacted the quality of life for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And yet there are intangibles which many people take for granted. The fact that there is now a new season of calm, peace and stability in the country. Put your mind back to January 2015, the tension in the land, the fact that we were going into an election for the first time, not knowing where the boundaries were drawn. It took the intervention of the Privy Council just days before a general election to finally determine whether Cayon, for example, would be part of the geographical district in which I would contest, or whether the region which I formerly represented would be the one for which we will contest on election day. These was a significant challenges then in the socio-economic and political life of the country, which today have all been resolved. And so they are no big deal because we have brought it back for normalcy. But when you are able to appreciate what was then and what is now, you can make the contrast and understand that across almost every area of life, things have become better under Team Unity, and the country is moving in the right direction.
If people are prepared to work towards a common goal in harmony, it can be beneficial to all. Sometimes people say, well, if you have parties that can't work together. I say, well, I've told somebody, do you realize that the only time you can be sure of absolute harmony is if a party of one? A party of one can't do much. You need to work in cooperation and collaboration with other people. And wherever you have more than one person functioning, there is the opportunity or the chance that you'll have dialogue, you'll have discussion, you'll have differences. But once the differences which throw themselves up are calculated to improve the achievement of the goal by looking at it from different perspectives, there's nothing to lose. And that is what Unity has brought, in that we have shown that three different parties coming from three different perspectives were able to submerge their differences for a common purpose, that is to serve the people and give the people a true democratic approach to governance and bring transparency to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I think in the first instance, it is to show persons that regardless of your political affiliation, one can come together. We can come together to make a difference for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I think if nothing else, the mere fact that you have had three political parties, persons from the People's Action Movement, persons from the People's Labour Party who were previously with the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, and the CCM from Nevis, I think we have shown persons that the political entities in St. Kitts and Nevis can come together to work for the betterment of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. If nothing else, I do believe that what we have done would indicate that to persons. However, of course, being in government is about building the lives of persons. We want to create an economy whereby persons feel free to become entrepreneurs, whereby we get persons, not just overseas investors, but in particular young persons in St. Kitts and Nevis, investing in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, becoming the next set of business owners here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And I think in particular when we had the program at Development Bank, the Fresh Start program, which gave loans to young persons, that was a step being taken in terms of creating entrepreneurs here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We want to ensure that we leave a St. Kitts and Nevis that is better than we would have left it. A St. Kitts and Nevis that the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis would be proud to call their home.
To all land, harmonize, freedom voices, sing of our splendid history, our pain and our struggle, advancement or triumph, from change. Oh, let those that ever symphony make pathway to our shores. Let them witness our majestic mountains, our fertile valleys, our crystal seas. The cradle of tranquility, we shall forever stand as one people, one nation, one God, one destiny. So blow your trumpets, lift your voices, hands in unity, we are proud to be.
Stay up to date with news, programs, and activities of the government with SKNIS. Like us on Facebook. Listen to us on SoundCloud. Follow us on Twitter. And watch our videos on YouTube. Connect with us today. SKNIS, St. Kitts and Nevis Information Service.